Welcome in. It is yet another NFL preview here on Sports by the Book, getting you ready for the 2025 season. And today we make our way to Los Angeles for the defending NFC West champion Los Angeles Rams. Alex, last year, Rams started out 1-4, ended up 10-7. Really, that seventh loss was with the backups the final week of the season. They already had the West clinched. They beat the Vikings, and they almost take out the eventual Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles in that snow globe game. But another year older for Matthew Stafford as we enter 2025.
Well, and with that being said, Jeff, I mean, Sean McVay has been one of the best since he has been a head coach in the league for the last 8 years. He's made the postseason 6 of those 8 years, and they had the fourth youngest roster. And you're talking about the quarterback. He is aging, but really McVay gets a lot out of his young talent. So it's no surprise that after that 1-4 start, they were able to rattle off some wins, especially when injuries really hit this division as a whole bad last year.
And you look at the West as a whole right now, the Rams, the Niners, the Cardinals, and the Seahawks, all teams that expect to be in the postseason. Now you see the win totals in this division. Seahawks coming at the bottom at 7.5, Cardinals 8.5. The Niners actually have a higher win total than the Rams. Now, for most of the summer, the Rams were the betting favorite in the division. That is now flipped. The Rams 9.5, their win total juiced to the under just because of the uncertain nature of the Matthew Stafford back saga. A aggravated disc in his back, always not a good thing to hear when you're dealing with essentially a 40-year-old quarterback, a guy who has dealt with plenty of injuries through his career. But here you go, Alex, minus 145 to make the playoffs, plus 180 to win the West yet again. They have shorter odds than the Niners to win it all and to win the conference, plus 650 to win the NFC, and then 10-1 to win the Super Bowl.
Really, the storyline has changed since the Matthew Stafford news and the injury to his back, because the entire summer they were kind of a Cinderella where people thought they were going all in with Matthew Stafford's last run here to the Super Bowl. Of course, not signing Cooper Kupp, bringing in Devontae Adams to help their offense. But at this point now, I mean, there's not much you can do. And with the full roster, they needed a lot of help on defense, and we saw that last year. So I don't love them to win this division. Now, of course, this entire division has a pretty easy crossover, seeing both Souths, the AFC South and the NFC South. But I think it's going to be a competitive division, and I think San Francisco might find their way back on top again.
It'll be interesting to see. Niner preview is going to be available on the channel as well. Obviously, Cardinals and Seahawks already readily available for us. It's an interesting division with an interesting cross, which we'll get to right here in the schedule. But first, I got to tell you, of course, Rams play the Texans week 1. Very intriguing game between two division champions from a year ago, and that is readily available on the $25,000 guaranteed jackpot parlay card here at the South Point. I know I'm blocking my face, but that's okay because this is that important. $5 entry, as many cards as you want, $25,000 guaranteed. If the pot goes through $25K, it gets added to the pot. So if there's enough cards that get entered that bring the pot above 25,000, it just goes back to the players with whoever has the best record through 14 games and one total, all only sides, no spreads, and a total of 52 for Sunday Night Football between the Ravens and the Bills, available on the jackpot parlay card. Fill it out today. Make sure it's in by 10 a.m. Pacific time on that first Sunday of the NFL season.
With you saying that, Jeff, and them facing the Texans right off the bat, I mean, I think that is what puts the Niners just a little bit ahead of them, because the Rams do have a first place schedule where they do have to see Tampa Bay, and they do have to see the Lions, and they do have to see some of these other teams. And I just think that makes it a little bit tougher for them now, as I still think it's a pretty doable schedule, and they do have a lot of talent on this team.
Yeah, I would say more so than anything, the biggest issue on the schedule, if you look at the way the cross games went for the first place portion of it, all right, you know you're going to have a tough road game against the defending NFC divisional champion regardless of who it lands on. And yeah, the road game at Philly, that's an extraordinarily difficult game, but could have been at Detroit, could have been at Tampa. It was going to be difficult regardless. They get the Lions and the Bucks both at home. Of course, they cross with the NFC South, so they were going to get Tampa regardless of it. And then You cross at Baltimore with that extra AFC game. Yeah, that's a brutal draw, but the Rams are capable of at least giving Baltimore a game. And also that's before the trip to London against Jacksonville and the Jacksonville home game at Wembley for that. But I actually like what they got the first 5 weeks of the season before week 6. Coin flip game against Houston, technically by the numbers. If Stafford is healthy, the Rams are better than Houston. And then at Tennessee, that's as good of a road game as you could ask for. It's the first home game in Cam Ward's Titan career. Yeah, a little more energy than usual in Nashville for a week 2 game, but the game you're supposed to win against the team with the lowest win total in the NFL going into the year. Then you get Indianapolis at week 4, when we recorded this, Daniel Jones had already been named the starter, so game they should win. And then you get the Niners on a short week at home. 4-1, if again, all of this is contingent on Matthew Stafford's back. If Matthew Stafford is able to play and looks like even like 80% of Matthew Stafford, this should be a 4-1 start. If he's not capable of it, or his back doesn't allow him to play and it's Jimmy G instead, then we're talking then it's a whole different ball of wax for this Rams team.
I'm going to push back a little bit on those first 5 weeks because while yes, they are better offensively, there's a lot of defenses in that group that I like, including the Texans and the Titans and the Niners and the Eagles, of course, with the best defense. So I do think that might make it a little bit tougher than just saying that they are better than them. I think 4-3 is definitely doable to start with those 7 before the bye week. And I'm kind of just giving them the Jags because I trust McVay more than a first-time head coach going international here with Liam Cohen. But so I think they have the advantage there and definitely the better roster. But other than that, I could see a 4-3, even a 3-4 start for them.
I think Stafford would have to be laid up in order to go underwater those first 7. 4-3, sure, yeah, you can lose the 3. You can lose 3 of the 4 road games, and more than possible. Yeah. Or you can lose the Niner Thursday night game at 3-4. I think if Stafford is again, and we'll get to the offense right here, everything is contingent on Matthew Stafford's back. And I know I keep saying it, but it's that important. And even though they have a more than competent backup in Jimmy Garoppolo, it is still a good-sized drop from correct Matthew Stafford to Jimmy G. And you look at the rest of the offense. Look, Puka Nacua is now. There's no Cooper Kupp anymore. He's in Seattle. They replaced Cooper Kupp with the aging Devontae Adams, who, you know what? Devontae Adams proved he could still play at the end of last season. Obviously, the Jets were a train wreck in every which way, but Adams looked good down the stretch, especially the last month of the season. So there's something still left in the tank for Devontae. That's a pretty darn good 1-2 punch in the receiver room. Kyron Williams is a stud. But there are questions yet again in the tight end room, Higbee and Parkinson. And then you look at that offensive line, Alex, and a little bit of a new look. And also Larry Jackson dealing with injury at left tackle.
Well, and even if you look at Pro Football Focus, they have them going basically from 14th ranked to 15th ranked. So they kind of mix around a little bit, bring somebody back, and it's really just basically the same. So it's a matter of what that offensive line can do and help their run game get going, which, I mean, even though it was career high for Kyron Williams with 1,299 yards and 14 touchdowns, I don't know that they're going to give him all that many touches. They've got kind of a running back by committee room now, and it is a contract year for him. So we're going to see a lot of these other young guys too with Blake Corum, who I think could be very good, and Hunter, who they just drafted. So it's interesting. Of course, I mean, Matthew Stafford is one of the best, and he's kind of wasted a lot of his career in Detroit, right? But since being at LA, they've always been a competitor, but just feels like everybody's a little bit too obsessed with saying, like, they're all in, they have to get it done this year. That doesn't mean that they do, right?
Well, of course it doesn't, but realistically speaking, this, even with the new contract for Stafford, 39-year-old with a back issue. Let's just be realistic here. Right. This probably is, if it's not the last dance, it's the next to last dance for Stafford and McVay. And look, it's been the case since Stafford got to LA. This is year 5. They've been in the playoffs 3 of the 4 years. The one year they missed the playoffs was the year Stafford was injured.
Right.
So when Stafford has stayed upright, they have made the playoffs with this combination of McVay and Stafford. And again, I like their weapons. And Nakua is a top tier wide receiver, and I'm buying Devontae Adams having more than enough in the tank to be one of the better number 2 wide receivers in the NFL. You don't have to be at number 1 anymore. If he's a top tier number 2, that's all you really need on this Rams offense.
Puka Nakua almost hit 1,000 yards, and he missed 5 or 6 games last year.
Amazing.
So
Kid's amazing.
There's no denying that.
Looking defensively, and this is where I think you and I differ a little bit. I really like this Rams defense, especially up front. You can question the secondary all you want. Yes. I have no issue with that. Where it's Darius Williams, Akilla Witherspoon, and Quinn Lake as your corners. Kobe Durant also mixes in as well, and then it's Cam Curl and Cameron Kinchins as the safeties. That's not a great unit back there. I understand that, but their front 7 is loaded. As obviously second year for Jared Verse, Jared Verse is live in the defensive player of the year market. He's 15-1. He's below the top 4, which is Hutchinson, Parsons, Garrett, and Wadden, and is in the same pocket with Will Anderson and Nick Bosa and Max Crosby for that second tier of the award odds. But then you have just that Braden Fisk, who had an amazing rookie year alongside. Byron Young is to me at this point is an underrated pass rusher as well. You get Poona Ford, who was great last year with the other Los Angeles team, and Kobe Turner alongside. I am super high on this front 7. I think they have as good of a front 7 as there is other than Philadelphia in the NFC, because the Eagles are the Eagles, obviously. But this is a high-end front 7 that should be able to alleviate the pressure from what is a weaker back end for this defense.
Well, and they need to do better about stopping the run, because they did really struggle last year.
That's why they brought Ford in, right?
That is true. Yes, that is why, because they finished 26th in total defense and 22nd against the run. But I do like the front 7. I do agree with you. And bringing up Jared Verse, 77 pressures, 66 total tackles, and 18 quarterback hits for him. So I do agree with you that he is live for Defensive Player of the Year. It is really just the secondary, and that's why I worry about them against, if they were to make it to the Super Bowl, I don't see that. I see that kind of happening like it did last year, where Matthew Stafford and company has just enough in their tank to win one playoff game. But if they were to make it to the Super Bowl and then face one of these AFC teams, it's the secondary that I think would be such a weakness for them against those high-end quarterbacks that we know in the AFC. But so defense, what do you have them? Top 10?
No. They're still, I would say they're top half.
Okay.
That's like if everything goes right, all right, sure, top 8. But realistically speaking, somewhere in the pocket of 11 to 13, 11 to 14, something like that. They're not an elite defense. But again, when you have that good of a pass rush, you can play up. But again, if in games they don't get pressure, they're going to have problems. And we saw that last year. That pass rush didn't really come on until after the bye week, and that's part of the reason that everything turned. Their offense had some struggles mixed in that win streak as well, but that defense just went from bottom tier to well above average during that win streak that pushed them into the division championship.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that is one of the things that kind of kept me off of them, is the inconsistency and offensively. They finished with a negative point differential, because you'd see really good games where they were in a shootout against Buffalo and won that one, and then you'd see games where their offense just really wasn't there at all. So it'll be interesting to see what we get from them this year and how consistent they can be. That 9.5 looks dead on to me.
I would only bet the division for the Rams. Seattle's not a threat to me. Arizona, I just don't trust them to play a whole 17 games. We saw last year. They led the division going into the bye week and then melted, and the Rams took full advantage. And then the 49ers roster, the schedule is so easy, but the roster is the weakest it's been since the first year Shanahan was there going into a season. So in the end, it's still the Rams to win this division. That's my favorite bet for the Rams. Before the Stafford back issue, I was ready to plop them into the Super Bowl. Now I have to really be more conservative with that. They're plus 650 to win the NFC. That's third best on the board. Only Detroit and Philadelphia are shorter. But that is a full year monitor now. With that Matthew Stafford back, we'll be able to get a better sense once we see him out there. And week one's a great test against Houston, as you mentioned, facing an elite pass rush with Anderson and a defense that will continually to improve because they have a great selection of young, high-end players on that defense. Rams also, again, 10-1 to win it all, Alex.
I just can't get them there to win this division, and it was such a mess last year with this entire division, and you mentioned it in the Cardinals. We've seen that with them. I do think that they've all improved, though, and we'll see what we get from Seattle. I imagine they take a step back where they're kind of in a rebuild here, but it is Mike McDonald's second year now, so I think defensively they'll still be good, but I mean, the Rams are pretty fortunate going 4-2 and really just 4-1 against the division because they rested some of their starters in that last loss there. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to have more competition in this division this year.
And again, the Niners, we when they've been healthy in the Shanahan era, they've made it to the NFC title game, right?
That's right.
that's really what it's been for this. And again, you see the Rams, they're right there. They're actually shorter than Detroit to win it all. That's interesting. 10-1 on the Rams here at the South Point. All right, there you go. That's the Rams preview here on Sports by the Book. Matthew Stafford's back is going to be in question the whole way through, so don't get mad at us if the back gets re-injured when you're watching this. So we apologize in advance if anything on that. But hey, Sean McVay's still there, and they still have Puka Nacua and Jared Verse on this roster. All the previews that you're looking for the NFL season, Sports by the Book on YouTube. Hit subscribe if you're watching us for the first time. Get the notification so you know when we go live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 o'clock Eastern. We're live every Monday through Friday here on Sports by the Book. And also in football season, now we're almost there. Fridays, noon Pacific time, 3 Eastern. Football Frenzy on a Friday. Alex White will be there. I'll be there. And Hall of Fame bookmakers Chris Andrews and Vinny Magliulo will be there. So you'll get the bettor's perspective and you'll get the bookmaker perspective as you've had for this will be year 3 of Football Frenzy. So we're looking forward to that here on Sports by the Book.
An hour of college football, an hour of NFL, everybody's favorite show that we have. So
be great. Looking forward to it. Fridays at noon. And of course, our regular show Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. So double dip on Friday. She's Alex White. I'm Jeff Parles. This has been the Los Angeles Rams preview for the 2025 season here on Sports by the Book, live from the South Point studio at the South Point Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada.